All right. Well, today we have a guest for this episode, returning for season 2. He is known as Double Doc. He is a pharmacist and internal medicine physician. He is the founder of Great Health and Wellness. His website is www.thegHwellness.com. He focuses on nutrition, fitness, lifestyle medicine, wellness, health coaching, supplements. He is also chief medical officer for Alpha Therapeutics. And he also has his own podcast, Drive for Great Health podcast. Welcome, Dr. Richard Harris.
Thank you so much, Sean, for having me on the show. I hope this finds you blessed and finds your listeners blessed as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So tell me a little bit about Great Health and Wellness. How did that come about?
It all started back when I got out of residency. I was working at a traditional large medical practice, seeing 25 to 30 patients a day, doing all my own refills, all my own callbacks, all my own lab results. And it was a 12-hour job every single day, including Saturdays, Sundays. It was just nonstop. You're on call every weekend. And I said, listen, there has to be a better way. There has to be a way that I can reach people where they are, because a 15-minute visit in the office doesn't solve anything.
Right.
That's just not enough time. And so I began to look at things, and I knew from being a pharmacist that medication is not the answer. No one takes diabetes meds for 3 months and it's like, oh, my diabetes is cured. Right.
Exactly.
So I began to look at alternatives, and what I really wanted to practice was preventative medicine. And I really wanted to focus on lifestyle, because I was always a big lifestyle person. And I wanted to take what I knew and how lifestyle medicine helped me and use that to help other people.
Very good. Okay. So how long have you been doing your podcast?
The podcast now, a little over 2 years, 91 episodes in. It's podcasting has been an incredible journey. It's amazing because people all over the world listen to my podcast now. And that blows my mind. I thought no one would listen. It's a health podcast, right? That's not sexy. Right. But yeah, I've got people listening. I have one fangirl incident one time where someone was like, oh my God, you're Dr. Harris. I love you. I listen to your podcast. It was nuts for me, but I really like it, because that means that people are investing in their health and they're starting to see their health differently, like an asset, like something that's worthwhile. I always tell people, you are your best asset, and the things that we can't get back are our health and time.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Why not focus on the things that we can't get back?
Absolutely. Okay. So you are located in Houston, correct?
I live in downtown Houston. Yes.
Nice. Very good. So your Great Health and Wellness, that's like you have a physical place people can come see you?
I used to, and I realized that I could pass on some cost savings if I didn't, and I started doing everything online, because the telehealth regulations will allow you to do just about anything online unless you're prescribing controlled substances. You need to see people in person to do that. But I'm not doing that now. I don't prescribe medications in my practice. So there was nothing I really needed a physical location for. All the supplements, I have the e-store, all the testing kits get shipped to people. They can take it at home, send them back. So it really allows me to be more flexible with myself and people's time and schedule. So now I can meet them whenever, however they want, as opposed to, buildings only open at this time or this day.
Sure. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So what would somebody typically come see you for?
So I used to do everything in functional medicine. And for those who don't know what functional medicine is root cause. So instead of saying you have hypertension and giving you a pill for it, we say you have hypertension. Let's figure out the root cause of your hypertension and treat that instead.
Yeah.
And so that is what I would do when people would see me for. And then I really narrowed it down to 3 areas. Number 1, lifestyle medicine, because it doesn't matter how many pills or supplements you take. If your lifestyle habits are not promoting health, then you're going to have bad health.
Right.
Then I started to realize that metabolic health was very important. our metabolism and optimizing that. And then the third thing was gut health. And I realized that if I can do those three things, that covers like 90% of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I focus on, is getting the gut right, getting our metabolism right, and making sure we have habits that endorse health instead of subtract from our health.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. So again, that website's www.theghwellness.com. If anybody wants to go visit. So you're also on Pod Houston, and that's how we connected. I put out the question if any doctors or anybody was in the group. So the focus of this episode is mental health. And, I can imagine that, a typical thought or response might be kind of negative when mental health comes up. It can be possibly confused with mental disorders, or, it's just kind of a taboo subject. So my question for you is, like, what is mental health?
Sure. And I think you are 100% correct on this. The first thing I tell people when they come to me with anxiety or depression or PTSD is I tell them this is not all just in your head. And the second thing I tell them is there is nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Because I grew up in a family of mental illness. My mom was sexually assaulted as a child. She was physically assaulted by her first husband. My dad lost his brother and sister when he was young, and his parents basically were very clingy. So he didn't actually get to grow and mature in a normal environment.
Sure.
And then my sister's borderline personality disorder and was addicted to methamphetamine.
Wow.
So mental health was something that was always present in my life because I never knew what environment I was walking into when I came into the house. And it became a very big passion of mine, was how do we really address mental health? And I think that we do a very big disservice to people by not addressing it in the holistic perspective. So
Yes.
when you have anxiety or depression, there are physiological changes that happen in your body, just like you would if you had diabetes or high blood pressure or cancer. There are changes that happen in our cells, changes that happen in our metabolism, changes that happen in our hormones. And so that's the first thing I want people to realize, is that there are changes just like any other disease that we know of. So it's not just all in your head. It's not that there's something wrong with you. There's processes that are not optimized. And so if you approach it like that, then you can start to see, okay, maybe there's some things that we can do to treat this. And the other thing I think we do a really bad job of with mental health here is we treat the mind without treating the body, and we treat the body without treating the mind.
Yes.
And you have to treat both. And if you don't treat both, then you're going to have suboptimal outcomes. And that's why you see with like antidepressants, for instance, a third of people who try them just don't get any effect whatsoever.
Right.
And then the study data shows that what we look for in the studies is a 50% reduction in symptoms. It's not a cure. A medication is a success if it reduces your symptoms by 50%. So that's
crazy.
Not a cure. That's not getting rid of the symptoms. It's just a reduction. Right. And so there are so many things that go into mental health. It's our environment. It's our mindset. It's the people that are around us. It's what we eat. It's, are we moving our bodies? It's, are we getting enough sleep? It's a combination of all these types of things. And if you don't address all of these areas, you're not going to optimize someone's mental health or their physical health. Because if your mental health goes, your physical health is going to go. And if your physical health goes, your mental health is going to go. They are connected.
Yeah. Okay. So like what kind of got me, and like you, I have some in my family, some disorders and everything. But one of the things that kind of got me going down the path of even looking at it was, and I've discussed this in some previous episodes, is I went to some 12-step programs, and, it was Christian based and whatnot, but the term, and like, I didn't have like addiction disorders necessarily, other than, food, which is a disorder. So I would go to like the life classes, and I just had an issue with life, and the word codependent came up. I was like, well, okay, I know what the term is, because animals can be codependent to each other, but like, I don't even know what that means. And so I was coming in from the outside. And so, like, I guess just me being me, like, I started pulling this apart. Is like, what does that mean? Like, is that me? Is that, how does it apply? And of course, as I started pulling it apart, it's like, yeah, I'm like severe codependent. So then, myself, I started, well, what does it mean to be codependent? And like, can you change it? All this other stuff. So, that's kind of a little bit of my background. So do you think like modern society has anything to do with kind of this being like a new phenomenon or anything? Or is this
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
that just like, anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it completely does. A lot of us in the holistic sphere think that chronic disease at its root is a mismatch between our genes' ideal environment and our actual environment.
Sure.
And one of the reasons why you see so much anxiety and depression and mental illness these days is because we live in a very idealized world.
Yes.
Social media is one of the best things that's happened to humans. It's one of the worst things that's happened to humans, because people will just believe everything they see.
Right.
Daniel Kahneman says what you see is all there is. So if you see this snippet, this 15-second portion of someone's life, you think that's their entire life.
Right.
Well, one time I saw that there was a company in Russia where people could literally go and take photos on a private jet and then post that on social media to show that they were on a private jet. Like, that's the
Wow.
world we live in
Yeah.
nowadays, and where people are doing these things just for likes. And if you look at the usage of social media, if you get a like, it causes a dopamine spike in your brain. You get a reward signal. It activates your reward pathways, and then you'll seek and look for more motivation to do those things, to get more likes, because it makes you feel
Right.
good, instead of actually doing stuff that's making a difference or things you actually like to do. And I think that's one of the big problems, is the idealized world that we live in. I think another problem is that if you look at a CDC study from, I think it was 2017, only 6% of people eat a nutritious meal plan, get enough sleep, exercise, and don't drink or smoke to excess.
Right.
6%.
I can
Right.
believe that.
And these are all things that are very important for the health of our brain. If your brain is diseased and not functioning optimally, well, what's that going to manifest as?
Right.
Mental illness, mental health issues. So you are completely correct. A large reason why we see this is because of what's happening in our society is not always in the best interest of our physiology. And then you can look at the media. The media does a terrible job of promoting health. Why? Because all they do is show you the worst of the world: murders, deaths, robberies.
Right.
Right. They always lead with these stories. And if you actually look at the data, this is the safest time in human history by
Right.
far.
Yes.
By far. I mean, it's not even close. If you actually look at the data, it
Yeah.
is
No,
the
we're not
best
running
time
away from lions and whatnot.
that we're not killing each other. Like, literally, you go
Right.
back 500 years ago, you couldn't
Mhm.
trust your neighbors at
Exactly.
all. They may kill you, they may take your land, they may take your kids, sell them off somewhere. Right. There's
Yep.
a lot of really crazy bad stuff. So if you only look at what you see on the news or the media, you're going to think the world is pretty bad. But actually, this is statistically the best time to be alive, as
Yeah.
far as longevity, as far as quality of life. So the media does a really bad job of portraying what life is actually like as well. And so all of these things are going to cause anxiety. They're going to cause you to feel like your life isn't enough. You're like, you don't measure up to this idealized version of some person you see on TV, when that's not even a real person doing a real thing. That's not who we should be comparing ourselves to.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to kind of give like just an overview, not anything necessarily in detail, but some different types of mental illness. You look it up and there's a whole book. I mean, you have the DSM, it's like a big, thick book. But just, I guess this is more of the common, or the more common mental health illnesses. And that can be anxiety disorder, mood disorder, psychotic disorder, impulse control, addiction, eating disorder. And that's just to name a few. Do you have anything kind of to chime in on those, or?
Yeah. The most common things we see in primary care is anxiety. Very common. One of the top things that you see. And all anxiety stems from the root of, if you break it down to root cause, anxiety stems from the fact that we try to control things that we have no control over.
Sure.
That's it. You don't worry about the things you can control when you think about it. I don't walk in the kitchen and be like, oh my God, what am I going to eat today? And how am I going to put a meal together? And what water am I going to drink? And all that kind of stuff, right? That's just not what happens. And then depression is very common as well. And that's something that we treat all the time. And that's something that's increasing for numerous different reasons. PTSD, we're starting to see that in people who aren't in the military.
Right.
In fact, I have a doctor friend who was abused so badly at her last job. She has PTSD about hospitals.
Wow.
She cannot do her job anymore. She works 4 days a week. And that's like what she says now. She's like, that's all I can handle. Anything more than that, and I completely lose it.
Wow. Okay.
And so we're seeing this more in the workforce as well, because employers just aren't taking care of their employees, and people are getting fearful of going into work, of bringing up their emotions, of showing their value in the workplace. And that's something that we're starting to see more and more. And then the impulse control disorders, eating disorders, drug addiction, sex addiction, gambling, pornography. All of these things are starting to increase because people are looking for things to make them feel good, to fill the void that they feel in their life. And these quick dopamine hits, that's what they search for, because it'll make you feel good, but it's not lasting. It's not a purpose. To fill the void as a humans, we need a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. That's fundamental to the human condition. And if you don't have that, you're going to seek poor substitutes like those things. And so that's why, in those 12-step program, like you mentioned, that's a big sense of what they do, is finding a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging for us, because that's something that's so necessary. And so, like we talked about earlier, these things are increasing because of what is happening around us and what is happening in us. And so if you're not aware of what's happening around you and you're not aware of what's happening in you, that's a recipe for a mental health disaster.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So, kind of bouncing off of that, and you said, being connected, that's part of like having a positive mental health. But I think it has to be, this is just my opinion, that it has to be like a conscious decision. It's not necessarily that we're going to like instinctively know to go do these things. And then sometimes we do. And then, our society has kind of taken some of these things away. It's just how it has happened. But being connected with others, developing coping skills, which unfortunately not too many people have today, self-care, relaxation techniques, and then talking openly with trusted individuals. That can be friends, family, therapists, 12-step group. And that's one of the things that came out for me in the 12-step group, because, they break it down into like the men's group. And of course, what's said in that room stays in that room. And, to the point that if you spoke outside of that room about what was said, it's like you're out of the group. Like, you can't be trusted. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point about men, because women typically, when they go through this, will seek help.
Right.
They will seek help. They will go to trusted friends. They will go to family. They will come to providers, doctors, to see what can they do. Men don't. And if you
Right.
and if you want to know why a lot of these men with mental illness commit these horrific crimes, it's because of that. They don't seek help, and it just spirals out of control into now where they see things in a world that's not actually the world that we live in.
Right.
And they look for something that's going to make them feel normal or whole or feel heard or listened to. But I think as men, we need to teach our boys that weakness is actually keeping things in because it's
Yes.
easier.
Yes.
Strength is putting it out there, is putting yourself out there. That's the hard thing to do,
Right.
is to talk to somebody about what you're going through, make yourself vulnerable. Vulnerability is hard.
Yes.
And that's why I think women inherently are stronger than men, because they are
Yeah.
not afraid to be vulnerable. Men, for whatever reason, we are terrified to be vulnerable. And it's maybe society's image. Oh, you're not a man if you cry. You're not a man if you show your feelings. You're not a man unless you're drinking beer and watching football and all these other things. I'm like, well, that doesn't make you a man. What makes you a man is taking care of your family,
Right.
is contributing to society, putting food on the table, helping out your kids, the neighbors' kids, growing the next generation. That's what makes you a man. And we've lost that sense. And now we look at what's manly as things that aren't really manly. They're very superficial. So bottom line is, we have to prioritize our health as men and realize that we are still the leaders of our family. Our family are going to take our lead.
Yes.
And if you don't prioritize your health, if you don't invest in yourself, then your family will follow along the same path. But if you do that, your family will follow into health. And I even look at what I've done with my family. They started to come along. It
That's
took them a
awesome.
while,
Yeah.
but they've started to see, oh, Richard, he's doing all these things. He feels great. He's happy all the time. He's
Mhm.
joyful. What is he doing?
Right.
And then you'll start to see this silent form of leadership, to where now I have people message me. They're just like, hey, you're such an inspiration for me. And, I did this and I'm seeing these results. And thank you so much.
That's
Like, I
awesome.
never even talked to that person about this stuff. Right. I didn't give them any advice. They just
Yeah.
saw what I was doing, my life, how I spoke about things, and said that, you know what, that's what I want to get to and where I want to be. So I'm just going to start doing what he's doing and kind of make it my own. But don't be afraid to speak out. If you need help, seek help and find a group like you did, where you're talking with people who are going through things, because we're all going through things.
Oh
It
yeah.
doesn't matter what position in life you are, how much money you have, how much social status you have. We all go through stuff.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to talk about it. And if you need help, reach out to someone who can help you. I think that everyone should go through therapy, no matter what, no matter how you feel,
Oh
because a
yeah.
lot of us will carry our childhood trauma forward. I did until my mid 30s.
Right.
And then I realized that, oh my gosh, I still have all this unresolved childhood trauma. And that's what's causing me to act out. I went through a phase where I was chasing women and cars and expensive stuff and lavish vacations and all that stuff. And I was emptier than ever. And
Right.
now that I spend all my time giving to others and helping others and trying to make the world a better place, I feel more full than I've ever felt.
Yeah. That's awesome. So without kind of making it sound hokey, is that kind of like something where you recognize that issue, like childhood issue, and then, you know, for lack of a better term, just letting it go?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that simple, or like what process did you have to go through? And say what you want to say, but
Yeah. I think what a lot of us do is, when we have painful memories or pain, we turn away from it because we
right.
just don't want to deal with it. And that's actually what makes things worse. You have to turn into the pain. You have to realize that the pain is there, that it
Right.
happened, and that actually that pain is there to help you grow.
Yes.
Because like physical pain is our body alerting us to something is wrong, to draw our attention to it, to
Right.
let us know that there's something we need to protect.
Right.
Right. And then you protect it, you become aware of it, you take the right steps, and the pain goes away when it's not needed. But we hold on to this mental pain because we turn away from it. We refuse to acknowledge that it exists.
Right.
And so what I had to do was I had to turn into the pain, and then I had to forgive the people that caused me the pain. And
Sure.
I had to realize that they were just people going through stuff too.
Right.
You know, I didn't know at the time all of my mom's backstory and her history and everything my dad had went through. And I just sat to myself and said, you know what? They did the best they could with where they came from.
Yeah.
I can't fault them. I can't blame them. They did the best they could. And you know what? I'm not going to let what happened to me 20 years ago deter me from getting to where I want to be and the man I want to become and my goals in life. And so it just flipped my mindset from, you know, woe is me. I can't believe this happened to me. I didn't deserve that, to it happened. I accept it. I believe it made me stronger. Now, what can I do and how can I help people with the knowledge that I gained from going through these incidents?
Right. Very good. So this being the Be a Man podcast, what is the biggest issue, or what's the biggest mental issue that you see as a doctor for men?
For men, it's the lack of acceptance.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that there's sometimes a disconnect between what the mental image of a person is and what the actual facts or person actually is.
Okay.
And so what that manifests as, I see it all the time where men will come in and be like, yeah, I'm having this problem. It's not that big of a deal. And they've got like a golf ball sized tumor. And I'm just like,
wow.
that's
right.
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. That's a huge deal. You should have come in a lot sooner than that. Or it'll be at the point where they were coming in and like, yeah, I'm just coming here because, you know, my wife is telling me that she's going to divorce me if I don't do something. And it's like nonchalant. And I'm like, that's a huge deal.
Right.
Right. And so I think that a lot of that stems from the fact that we as men put up this wall of strength, this wall that we're impervious, this wall that, oh, it doesn't bother me. It's not going to get to me. I'm not going to let it really think about it or linger or whatever, but it's actually causing problems. And we just keep plowing ahead and not looking at all the destruction and devastation that's behind us because we're just keep on plowing ahead.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by acceptance, is that you have to accept your actual reality, what's happening in front of you, the feelings of others, and your own feelings. And once you do that, you'll be able to actually do things that are in the best interest of yourself and your family, and not what this image of society says a man should be or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So going forward, in your opinion, what is the best way to eliminate the kind of taboo behind seeking help?
I think we have to realize that we cannot do it alone.
Right.
Yeah. As men, we tend to think that I'm all I need. I can do this. I've got it.
Right.
No, we don't. No one's got it. No one in the history of the world has ever built anything that lasts by themselves.
Yeah.
It takes a tribe. It takes a village. It takes an army. It takes people around you. You know, even the Bible, what does it say? The three chords, right?
Right.
One chord by itself is weak. Three chords is very strong.
Yes.
Woe is he who falls alone, because there's no one to pick them up.
Exactly.
Right? We are meant to go through life together. And as men, we tend to not want to do that. We tend to think that we're bothering people, or that, you know what, we'll just figure it out, or everything will just be okay. And that's not necessarily going to be the case. And sometimes that does happen, and it gives you this false sense of security that the next times are going to be like that. But all it takes is one time where it's not like that to change everything.
Right.
The entire course of your life. And it could be prevented. So I think that we need to be more open to each other, check in with each other.
Yeah.
I have friends, I just text them every now and then, like, hey, man, how's everything going?
Right.
How's your wife? How are your kids? All right, that's great to hear, man. I love you. All right. If you need anything, just let me know.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
don't know why so many men are so afraid to tell them that they love each other. That's just crazy to me. I
Yeah.
tell all my good guy friends I love you all the time
Yeah.
because I've lost friends and I don't ever want to say, man, I wish that I had told them I love them, or I hope they knew that I love them.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. So I believe that all men can do things on a daily basis to give their lives more meaning. So going forward in society, what do you think one thing all men can do?
Gratitude. I
Ah,
think this is something
big.
that women are better at than us, is
Yeah.
expressing gratitude. Gratitude is so powerful, and it's not just for our mental health, it's our physical health. Gratitude actually activates longevity genes. So
Really?
it actually causes physical changes in the body that are beneficial towards like blood pressure and blood sugar and hormones. And when you think about gratitude, think about not only what you're grateful for, but also think about the people that you've helped and how they showed you gratitude. And
Sure.
if you do those things, you get a powerful reaction in your body and you'll start to feel good about it. And then what do? Remember dopamine. It's the reward thing. It's going to make you seek
Right.
out things that make you feel good. And if you start feeling good about helping people, you're going to start helping more people, which is actually helping you. You're helping
Exactly.
you help
Yes.
other people. And
Yeah.
so I think one of the things that I encourage everyone to do, especially men, because women are just better at this than us, is have a daily gratitude practice.
Mm, yeah. Okay. So that kind of leads into my next question. What habits do you attempt daily or regularly to give yourself more meaning?
Yeah, it's like we talked about earlier, the things you can't get back are time and health.
Yeah.
So I actually spend most of the time, I spend a lot more time investing in my health than a lot of people because it's something that you can't get back. And it's something that I know personally, the people in my life deserve the best version of myself.
Yes.
Absolutely. 100%. My wife, my parents, the people that come to people put their lives in my hands.
Yep.
I could not be a physician if I was not making sure that I am 100% every single day. That is what the patients, that's what their families deserve when people are coming to me for help. So I spend a lot of time making sure that I'm the best version of myself that I could possibly be. The second thing is the time
Yeah.
and putting forth effort into things that actually really matter. And that's
Right.
connecting with friends, that's doing charitable work, that's making sure that the legacy that I leave is one that is making the world a better place. I always tell people, if God forbid I die tomorrow, number one, my funeral's a 2-shot minimum. If you're crying, you're out of there, right? Because I want that to be a celebration of life, right?
Right.
And number two, I want people to say Richard made a difference.
Yes.
And so that is what I try to do every day, is try to think more about who can I help than what do I deserve out of life. And when you make that shift, you'll start to see improvement in not only your own life, but in the relationships around you.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we are running up on our time limit. So do you have any last thoughts or input?
Yeah, I always say two things. Number one is our best defense against stress or any type of mental problem is our ability to choose one thought over another.
Okay.
You have the ability,
Yes.
right? No one's putting thoughts in your head. The
Right.
thoughts that are in your head come from you, and you
Yes.
have the ability to take one thought and turn it into another. The
Yeah.
second thing I'll always tell people is it's hard to be healthy, but it's hard
Yeah.
to be sick.
Yeah.
You get to choose your hard.
It's true. Yeah. Very good. Well, Dr. Harris, Richard, I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And hopefully we can do another episode sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to come back. Thank you for having me, Sean. Wish you blessings on season 2, that you
Yes.
touch and reach a lot of lives, and that you have fun and joy while doing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.